Brake lines and 2D steering. In this module, we're going to be talking about the adjustment of brake lines and the installation of 2D steering. People come in all sorts of shapes and sizes with all different levels of arm lengths and shoulder flexibility, but gliders come from the manufacturer with their brakes set at just one setting. While this should be a safe position, it might not offer you the best in-flight comfort. In this module, I want to talk about why we would shorten or lengthen our brake lines, what 2D steering is and why we would want to install it, and how to make 2D adjustments properly and safely. Let's jump into it. It is most likely that your wing is going to come from the factory with its brake lines set kind of long. In flight, that position is below the shoulder. It's my preference to be interfacing with my brake toggles and brake lines and tip steer lines about level with my ear. This allows me to use the comparatively much larger muscles like my lats and biceps to operate the brake instead of using kind of my shoulder muscles and relying on pushing with my hand at this lower angle. In general, think about doing a pull-up. Pretty easy to pull from here. It's pretty hard to get over the bar. When we're using our brake toggles, we want to use the muscles that have the greatest strength so we're not straining ourselves to move the toggle. This is why I like the toggles here. Before we jump into adjusting things, let's talk about some risks with adjusting brake toggles. Now, your wing is going to come from the factory with the brakes set up as they were, and the manufacturer is probably going to tell you to not touch them. You can do that, you might not get the best experience. I found on some wings that the brakes and tip steer lines come from the factory so long that when you come into land, you can't actually get the wing to stall and you touch down at a harder speed than you actually have to, and the tip steer is so long that it can actually almost go back and touch the prop. Sometimes it's kind of not set up well. Now, the risk with shortening the brake toggles specifically is you decrease the distance between the brake pulley, which is kind of our stop, our actual brake line length measurement point, and the trailing edge of the wing. Now, there can be some kind of adverse effects to this and some really dangerous effects to this. If you make your brake line too short, what will happen is the brake line will be pulled or very nearly pulled all of the time. We're really looking for some bow in that brake line. Now, if it's pulling just a little bit all the time, what's going to happen is it's going to make your forward inflation really challenging. It's going to slow you down in flight, and it's going to potentially make it so you can't land as softly, robbing some energy from your flare on landing. And if they were a little bit off, you could end up turning one direction or another in flight slowly. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is you shorten the brake line to a point where there's enough deflection that when you accelerate the wing, like go on speed bar, and you're on a wing that's reflexed and does not allow brake lines to be activated while on speed bar, you take a deflation. I've had this happen. Of note with this problem, a particular riser design that you need to be especially cautious of is the style I believe Niviak uses, and maybe other manufacturers have used, called a floating D riser. So it's a 4-riser system. It's got A's, B's, C's, and D's, but the brake pulley attaches to the C line, and the D line is a rope that goes up and down. Effectively, when you change the acceleration of the wing, whether you let the trimmers out or you push the speed bar, the D riser will move up and increase the length between the brake toggle pulley and the trailing edge of the wing. So when you accelerate the wing, it pulls more brake. This can lead to a situation where in a normal flying state with the trimmers in or just a little bit out, the wing looks fine. But when you go to push speed bar, all of a sudden it's pulling brake. So look, there's already main brake being pulled. The main brakes were too short. I pull speed bar and now it starts to bend and there it goes. That's really dangerous. To see the rest of this over 22-minute long discussion on brake adjustment and 2D steering installation, visit vimeo.com/ondemand/paramotor101 to begin your paramotor educational journey today.